watching
Bye-bye.
Docs on Call with Dr. Christopher Stroud from Northeast OBGYN, and he's discussing pregnancy myths. Thanks for joining us. And we have Bonnie on the line, Dr. Stroud. She has a question. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Hi, I was wondering about the Rh negative blood and whether the third child needs a transfusion.
Great question. One of the somewhat less common questions that we get, but certainly it used to be a very common question, and that is, if a mother has Rh negative blood, does that have implications for the current pregnancy or for future pregnancies? And the answer is it most certainly did. It doesn't today nearly as much as it did just a few years ago. Now when pregnant women have Rh negative blood, they receive a shot of a medicine called immune globulin, or RhoGAM, and that protects them from recognizing their baby's Rh positive blood. But certainly just a few generations ago, when RhoGAM wasn't available, the current pregnancy was for the most part unaffected, but second and certainly third or fourth and subsequent pregnancies could be affected, and it could be a very devastating effect. But today, fortunately, with the use of RhoGAM and medicines like that, it's not something to be concerned with, and women who have Rh negative blood can conceive as many times as they care to. Great question. Thanks for calling.
That's wonderful news, too, Doctor. Thanks, Bonnie, for asking that question.
Can I ask you about mental retardation if it runs?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Your question? I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Bonnie.
About mental retardation, if that goes from family to family each time.
Sure. You know, it's certainly an important question, an important topic. The factors that go into mental development or delayed development or improper development are so multifactorial. That is to say, there are so many things related to that. There are genetic syndromes that are associated with that. There can be a whole host of other conditions that are associated with that. It would depend on the specific cause of a specific child's problem, and then we could take that cause and ask ourselves, and then if it's a familial trait that's passed on from generation to generation. Good question. Takes a lot of specifics to get an answer, though.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling. Billy, you have a question for Dr. Stroud.
Who?
Hello, Billy.
Yes.
Go ahead with Dr. Stroud.
My granddaughter, who's 18, is pregnant.
Billy, could you turn down your television set, please?
Okay, just a second. Just
All right.
a second.
Okay, we'll wait. And
my granddaughter is 18, and yes.
now I hear myself asking Billy to turn down her television. Okay. All right, here we go.
My granddaughter, who is 18, is pregnant, and she's due in September. Well, she's been told that the baby's got an irregular. The baby is a boy, and it's got an irregular heartbeat, and it's also got a horseshoe kidney. So is this baby going to have a lot of problems, or will the irregular heartbeat straighten up, or?
Certainly, I think I understand your question, and thanks for calling. I guess I should start by saying congratulations. If I understand it, you're going to be a great grandmother in September. Certainly, babies having irregular heartbeats are very common. It's something that we encounter regularly, and for the most part, in the majority of cases, it does not mean that there's going to be a problem with the baby. Something that needs to be looked into and followed closely by your granddaughter's obstetrician, and then by the baby's pediatrician. And the same would be true by a set of the so-called horseshoe kidney that you mentioned. That's something that the obstetrician certainly needs to know about, as well as the pediatrician. But for the most part, they do not cause significant trouble. So congratulations, and thanks for calling.
Oh. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy. And Danielle, you've been holding. Go ahead.
Hi. My question is, what can you do for folliculitis?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
What is the name? What?
For folliculitis.
A folliculitis.
Are you describing folliculitis, a problem around the hair follicles?
So. Yes, I believe so. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We certainly have our share of unusual terms in medicine, don't we? Well, it would depend, frankly, on where the folliculitis is. Folliculitis is an inflammation, sometimes leading to an infection of the follicles around the hair. Certainly it's something that men experience on their face sometimes from shaving. Women can experience it on their legs or anywhere on the body where hair is removed. The follicles can become infected. But it's certainly something you'd need to talk to your physician about with a little bit more information, a little bit more detail. Let them look at it, make sure that's what it is, and then determine a way to treat that for you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Certainly. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Matt, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, doctor. I was wondering if it is common for boys to have a lower heart rate as it is for girls to have a higher heart rate when they're in your womb. Just wondering that.
Absolutely. Great question. That has to also be in our top 5 myths that we encounter in pregnancy.
It is a myth. Okay.
I would say every time that I listen to a baby's heart rate in the office, it seems like every time, the patients and their husbands will say, now, if it's fast, that means it's and they'll say boy or girl. The normal fetal heart rate has a very broad range from around 110 to 115 beats per minute to 150 to 160 beats per minute, a very wide range, and it changes all of the time. If the fetus is asleep, it may be slower. If they're awake and moving about, it may be faster. If the mother has recently eaten, it may be faster. So there's so many things that go into the heartbeat, and it's not the same. It changes dramatically over time. And in fact, we use that change of the heartbeat over time as a sign of health in the baby. So at any given moment when you're listening, it may be fast, and at any given moment it may be slow, and that has nothing to do with the gender of the baby. So great question, a very common one, but that one has to go in the myth category as well.
Thanks, Matt, for that myth. I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have any patients that come in and say, this is absolutely true, even though you've told them it's a myth, they believe it?
Oh, absolutely. I would say certainly, because these are handed down sometimes from generation to generation, grandmother to great-grandchild, and we encounter that pretty frequently.
Okay, well, let's see. Angie, do you have a myth for us, possibly?
It's kind of like one. I had heard that preeclampsia normally happens to women in either their first pregnancy or women of smokers. And I would find out I was pregnant. I've had preeclampsia 2 times now, and I would quit smoking immediately. And I'm pretty small framed anyways, but I would gain like 75 pounds, and towards the end, my blood pressure would get really high to the point where they'd have to induce my labor. And so, is it true that it's just your first, more likely, or is it because you do smoke prior to being pregnant?
Great question. There are plenty of reasons not to smoke at all, and certainly even more reasons not to smoke in pregnancy. But smoking does not cause preeclampsia. You are correct in that preeclampsia is somewhat more common in first-time pregnancies, but it also can be recurrent in subsequent pregnancies. So a mom that's had preeclampsia is more likely to get it in next subsequent pregnancies. But it's slightly more common in first-time moms, but not caused by smoking. But don't misunderstand me, one shouldn't smoke in pregnancy.
That's right. That's one thing that people want to be a myth, that they could smoke in pregnancy, but it is the truth.
That
right?
lives firmly in the fact category. Smoking in pregnancy, nothing positive you can say about that.
Okay. Judy, do you have a question for Dr. Stroud?
No, I have some facts.
Okay, go ahead.
My first baby, I was sick the whole time. And I had a boy. The second time, I was not sick at all. I had a wonderful pregnancy, and I carried the baby different, and they said, oh, you're going to have a girl, okay? I had a second little boy. And so you can't go by those myths at all.
Well, thank you. You're absolutely right. They're still fun, and we still hear them every day, and it's almost a part of our culture, but you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony on that. Appreciate that. Doctor, how about if I throw the word tattoo out there? Tattoos. Are any myths associated with pregnancy and tattoos?
Well, I'm not sure about myths. I mean, we in healthcare have some concerns about tattoos, not necessarily related to pregnancy, but just related to health in general. And that is, it's very important if one is considering a tattoo that they're in a very clean and reputable place, because there's a risk of transmitting things like hepatitis with the devices used for tattoos. I will say, somewhat of a funny anecdote, it is not uncommon for women to have tattoos somewhere on their stomach. And with pregnancy, those tattoos can take on a completely different shape and, and appearance sometimes. And they don't always look the same after.
I was just going to say afterwards, that's where those stretch mark things come in and mess up the tattoos. Yes. Deb, how about a question from you?
Yes, I am currently pregnant, and I've had a really hard time getting pregnant. There's about 6 years between my oldest child and this baby, when this baby will be born. And I went on a gluten-free diet because I've been having a lot of hormonal trouble, and within 3 weeks of going on this diet, I became pregnant. So my question is if I eat gluten during this pregnancy, is there a chance that it could affect the fetus in any way?
Oh, great question. I mean, certainly you may be gluten intolerant and are doing much better on a gluten-free diet, and there'd be nothing wrong with continuing that diet through the pregnancy. At the same time, there's no reason to believe that consuming gluten would in any way affect your baby. But, you know, I think this brings up an important point that we want to leave our listeners with, is that if a myth in pregnancy sort of encourage you to go against the advice of your obstetrician, or if the myth or the one sharing the myth with you suggests that you shouldn't talk to your physician about this because they wouldn't understand, that's a warning sign. So when you have these questions, just as we've done tonight, you know, they need to be discussed and talked about, and where there's myth, and where there's fact, there's fact.
That's right. I thought she was going to say, if you eat a gluten-free diet, will you get pregnant? But that's where I thought she was going. Linda, go ahead with your question.
Yes. I was just wondering, I had 4 children, 4 years in a row, and I never got pregnant again. I never took birth control or anything, and I was wondering, could that be something that was wrong with my ovaries?
I'm not sure I understood your question.
You said you had 4 children in a row, and then you couldn't get pregnant?
Right.
Oh, I see. Well, certainly we have done an entire evening just on the difficulty getting pregnant that some women experience. We could talk much more in detail about what could possibly lead to your inability to conceive after your ability to 4 times. But there's a whole host of things that really could have been responsible for that.
Yes. Well, what is the one thing in 30 seconds do you want our viewers to take away with?
Talk to your obstetrician. If you have questions, bring those questions up. I like to tell patients a good idea is to bring a blank book, write their questions down when they think of them, bring them to the appointments so we can sit there and discuss them to the extent that we like, because there's some important things that we need to cover.
As usual, you are a wealth of information, Dr. Stroud. Thank you for being with us, and I hope to see you again next month.
My pleasure. Enjoyed being with you.
And thank you very much for watching Docs on Call. Dr. Christopher Stroud from Northeast OBGYN has been my guest tonight. Thanks for joining us. Watch Docs on Call online. Log on to incnow.tv, go to the features page and click on Docs on Call. Lee, next week we'll be talking to the doctors from Pain Management Association about pain management during summertime activities. Good evening.